Well, we're only a few minutes late. This wasn't it wasn't Constance's fault uh, entirely. So, as you can see, we were in the living room today with got some nice flowers by the lamp over there, and you can see that it's a kind of a sunny day here.
It's icy cold sunshine.
It is cold and chilly. It got down to what, 41?
I didn't even go look, but it's at least that.
So, and we had a lovely time. We had guests here at the house yesterday from,
New friends and old friends and people from. Then we went out to dinner with. We were treated to dinner at.
at the new
Thank you, Richard.
Yes. So, yeah, we had, there were 10 people
Yes,
at dinner last.
good company for dinner.
Yeah.
So good company during the day and good company for dinner, and good food. So it was pretty okay.
But we missed our routine coffee.
Well, more.
And so we're
I,
insane today. So,
Yeah, I was okay yesterday with it because I replaced it with listening to people. But
and it was a lot of fun. And we thank absolutely everybody that made our day totally memorable. And we had a wonderful time. But part of dinner last night, I got into a discussion with one of I think the deputy master of 418 Oasis OTO here in town about UFOs and flying saucers and things like that. And I know that I've shared us. Excuse me. I sure wish I had some coffee.
you would like to bring it?
No.
Really?
What?
You want a sip? I'll bring you your coffee.
A sip?
We
Okay.
went for a walk today and got his coffee. It's very
Thank you,
nice.
dear. Thank you, my bride of 56 years.
Yes, yes.
Have it in a linoleum cup or fiberglass cup.
Yeah, fiberglass.
Anyway, I was talking about flying saucers. Uh, and I wasn't talking, but she asked me about if I have ever seen a flying saucer. Here's one right now. It came flying, and it was delivered by an extraterrestrial angel who brought it
Oh,
across.
all right. Just drink it. He wants to hold on to it because his hands are cold.
Hands are cold. It's cold. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome, dear.
And yes, I've seen flying saucers. That's what we call them because we were raised.
It was a cute name to call him from when we were raised.
Yes. So we were raised in the late 40s and early 50s where flying saucers were all the rage. People had been seeing flying saucers ever since the atomic bomb went off.
I'm sure that had nothing to do with
Sure, it had nothing to do with it. That certainly wouldn't be anything that could be seen from space. But nevertheless, there was a rash, if you will, of flying saucer sightings and things like that. When I was a little boy in Lakewood, the Good Humor ice cream man even had a ice cream cone on a stick, and it was a round disc of chocolate covered vanilla ice cream with a popsicle stick up the middle of it, and they sold them as flying saucers and things like that. So, and I was also raised on kind of the early golden years of B movies, flying saucer movies and stuff, Plan 9 from outer space and all of that stuff. So I was very comfortable with the fact that, I thought the universe was so big that there's just no way there isn't extraterrestrials, and not only that, but we're extraterrestrials to other worlds. That was just an easy concept for me to accept. But I'd never seen a flying saucer in as a child in California. We lived next door to Douglas Aircraft over by where the Long Beach Airport is right now. And I saw wonderful experimental airplanes like delta wing things called the flying wing. There was just an airplane that was just a wing, sort of like what the B-1 bomber looks like now. And they would fly over the house, and it would be very interesting. But it was never. It was always so logical to me that there would be flying saucers. That it wasn't a big obsession with me. Like, oh, if I could prove there's flying saucers, then there's justice in the world, or if I could prove there's flying saucers, that means that God and the gods exist. Nah, no, it was just like, well, eventually everybody's going to know that there's flying saucers, and we're going to have to sort of deal with living in that more expanded view of the universe. But when I moved back from Nebraska to California, and Constance came out a few months later, really, and we got married and everything, and we were very sort of active in the subculture of the peace movement, and we were also kind of active in the what we'd call today New Thought spiritual movements, yoga and Eastern mysticism and things like that, and we were interested in other religions, Hinduism and Buddhism and things like that. So we were sort of mystical people. And we were fans of Paramahansa Yogananda, and attended the Self-Realization Fellowship services. And my brother had the Kriya Yoga lessons and things like that. So we were big fans of Yogananda, and lots of people are. And if you are not a fan of Yogananda, get Autobiography of a Yogi and treat yourself to a wonderful adventure, mind-expanding adventure. Why am I telling you this with flying saucers? Well, it's like this. After the assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and the escalation of the Vietnam War, and some very, very scary political developments in the country, we and our closest friends, we made the decision that either we're going to need to just roll up our sleeves and get absolutely knee deep into political activism, or things have gotten so bad that truly our only escape from this would be to sort of follow Tim Leary's advice and drop out. And that our only escape from what seems to be the terrible way the world was developing was not to run away from the world, but to gain enlightenment first. And that our own enlightenment was going to be the only true escape from the world's hideousness that was happening. Don't suppose we could identify with that today, do we? nevertheless, we decided to pool our resources with a couple of a couple of friends, with their family and their children. Those they would later appear on the cover of Life magazine, on an article about hippie communities, and moved to Southern Oregon. And my brother and Ron made an exploratory trip to Southern Oregon to see if we could actually get a little property, and have a very loose, informal, communal community started. And they went up to Oregon, to Southern Oregon, to areas south of Grants Pass and Cave Junction, and a little tiny. It was just literally a country store, and maybe they had gas at this country store in an area called Tequilma. And I think Tequilma still exists. It hasn't been burned out or flooded out. It's now, last time we looked, was an artist's community. We're very proud of the way Tequilma worked out. But they came back and told us that there was a property for sale, and the man that was selling it was somewhat of a yogi and somewhat of a saint.
Somewhat.
A saint.
No, I don't mean. He was. Forgive my somewhat.
Yeah, well, at the time. So we went up there. By golly, he was a
He was a yogi and a.
he was a yogi and a saint, you know.
I mean, not. Oh, come on, anyone can judge. You
We all are.
If you can't tell. Anyway, yeah, that. If you can't tell what someone's at, you know.
Well, his name was Gary Rossignol. I call him something else in the book My Life with the Spirit. But Gary and his wife Diane and their son Andre lived in what I can only describe is a palatial barn, right within just paces of the Illinois River. And I believe their son, Andre, is a Facebook friend. And I believe every once in a while he watches my morning shows. So Andre, if you're watching in, please feel free to comment, because I'm going to say something very complimentary about your parents. And Andre is,
Oh.
yeah. But anyway, the more we got to know Gary and Diane, the more interesting they became. Gary was a very sort of a diminutive character. He wasn't a very big man, and he
But
was,
he seemed like he was very strong and wiry
yes.
and flexible.
And he worked the midnight shift at a dairy during the day and during the night, and in the daytime he did the work around the sort of farmstead there.
And slept, I think.
And he slept a little bit. But we also discovered that Gary, being a mystic, would fall into trance voluntarily, and he would communicate with what he called the Space Brothers. And he would channel wisdom and write it out in, I believe it was longhand, because I never heard
I
it.
thought it was on tape.
And he would tape it because he was not,
tape.
yeah, that's what it was. He would tape his trances, sort of like Edgar Cayce readings, you know. And he would talk, and we heard some of the tapes, and he would talk sort of with another voice.
Not enough of them. I wish
Yeah.
I wish I could hear them all.
We kick ourselves in the butt for not paying more attention at the time. But Tequilma was so magical that it didn't seem like anything weird. Oh, it's just Gary's in there channeling. Yeah, well, okay, well, and come to find out, Gary's brother in Canada, Quebec, I think, or was a Catholic priest who they were on the road to canonization because when he walked into the cathedral.
No, when he said mass.
When he said mass, the cathedral lit up.
Without electricity.
Yeah, not electrically lit up. It and the Vatican says. But we're digressing.
Observers. Anyway, whatever this was, I think they must have had awesome parents and an upbringing, and who knows. Anyway, they were a family. I don't know. It was. And
Andre, I guess, was what?
Andre?
Huh?
Andre the boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a very, very cool kid. And from our point of view, he was very, very, very lucky to be raised in that environment.
He seems like a mystical Huck Finn.
Yeah, a mystical Huck Finn. Andre, you are a mystical Huck Finn. And if you're watching, Andre, if maybe I've asked you this before, but if you still have the transcripts or the tapes of Gary's sessions, I'd be interested in knowing more about that because
I'd be interested in it for personal use alone.
For no other reason, yes. But anyway, we were also told that that area of Southern Oregon was a center for UFO research and UFO communities, and that whole people.
Everybody, there were sightings everywhere.
There were sightings everywhere, every night.
By everyone.
By everyone.
Not just the hippies or the,
Not just us freaks. And if you think we're out there taking a lot of drugs.
There was no money for drugs.
We didn't have.
We smoked Scotch broom once.
Thinking it might get us high, but it didn't. Scotch broom. It's just. But anyway, so we were out there dropping psychedelics and smoking dope. We were just out there on a vegetarian diet, and oh, thank you, dear. She's pulling down the legs of my sweatpants. I got them on frontwards.
That's another story.
I had my pants on backwards all morning. But you're finding out too much.
That sounds really confident, make you sound very competent for telling the story.
I'm a great authority on. You want to know about, believe me, the man with his pants on backwards. But anyway, God, I'm getting around. How much time do you have this morning?
I don't have much. I'm trying to get to work in the kitchen. You asked me to sit here.
Okay, I'll get to the point.
Is there one?
Tequilma is very near, or within, 20 miles or something, at least certainly 50 miles. In the vicinity of the Oregon Vortex. Now, the Oregon Vortex is a real live geomagnetic pole. Yeah, it's like it's a spherical energy magnetic field, and they're all over the.
They're all over the world.
They're all over the world.
And they're all weird places.
Yeah, and usually around a vortex,
something happens.
The natives, the Aboriginal people, wherever they are, always go, wild stuff happens here. This is sacred ground. And birds don't go into it. And when babies are taken in, they cry and things like that.
Airplanes have to have their their magnetic stuff goes awry for a while, but everybody's aware of this. It's not something
Yeah.
weird.
It-
And the Oregon Vortex said that they claimed that their opposite pole was Giza.
Yes. So the vortexes come in pairs, poles at different opposite sides of the
They're minor north and south poles.
yeah,
They really are.
they're minor, at least as far as magnetic poles go. And the park ranger who gave us the tour of the vortex told us that the match, the opposite pole of the Oregon vortex at Gold Hill, was the one that was under the main pyramid at Giza in Egypt. And all of that was just blowing our minds. Okay, all of this was blowing our minds. And when we did take the tour of the vortex, and that was sponsored by the state and everything, the guy had a Smokey Bear ranger hat and everything else, and a uniform. And then when everybody else sort of went off to see the House of Mystery kind of thing and see how the trees are bent at a certain angle and stuff, he kind of took us hippies aside and said something like, they refuel here. We weren't talking about flying saucers or anything else. He just said, they refuel here.
He knew we were living out in the country somewhere, and that meant
He says,
we'd seen him.
you guys are freaks. You're going to want to know this. And he says that they come almost every night and hover just above the vortex, as if it was like above the point of a pyramid. Okay. And he says, and when they're in position, they can travel anywhere at the speed of thought.
But then, that part, he was obviously spinning us a fairy tale because there was no.
He didn't have a big notebook and photographs.
Or testimonials from them that's what they
right.
were doing.
Yeah, he didn't say, and they beamed me up and probed me, but
did not say that. Yes.
no. But it just gives you an idea of what mystical area this was. Well, all of our friends that own property or were nearby there, our little loose-knit community, every night they said, well, we saw him again last night. And they described a whole bunch of different kind of sightings. And so we weren't there very long before we got an old mattress, thin mattress, and we laid it out at night, and we just laid on the mattress looking up at the beautiful, beautiful sky and just looked at the stars, because somebody said, hey, look, you want to see them? Just go out tonight, look at the stars. I bet it won't be 5 minutes and you'll see one. And they're right. We'd lay up and look at the stars, and the stars are just doing what stars do, just twinkle and put in. Didn't see anything. And all of a sudden, just one of those stars, just one that's just been sitting there, starts to go, it didn't make that noise, but it just started to move against the backdrop of the other stars that remained stationary. And there'd be two or three, Constance and me, or whoever else was in the yard, said, I see it, it's right by the Big Dipper's this or that. Yes, it's good. Wow, look at that, look at that, look at that. And we're all very excited, and then we'd be talking about it, and then it would stop. It would stop in a different position. And then we'd keep our eye right on it, and then it'd go, no, it's going down now, And we were describing the thing. And as we were watching that one, two stars from over here would go dee 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 dee. and it was very exciting. And that we would play games with it. We'd say, "I wonder if they can hear our thoughts." You know, go to the left, go to
You're
the right,
digressing.
and yeah, go move up.
You're digressing.
Because they what was up and down to something in that position. But anyway, and they would seem to react to that. Okay. I'm going to want you for this one story, dear. That's impressive, okay, and it gives us a story to tell with our other neighbors. Yeah, we saw the moving stars last night. It was pretty far out, and but one of our neighbors was the former concert master. That's the first chair violin of the Orange County Symphony at the time. That was the very first Orange County Symphony, and his name was David Dunn. Okay, a violin virtuoso, flat out. He was awesome, and he was just up there because he sort of was friends with Timothy Leary's daughter and sort of the Tim Leary people back down in Orange County. And he's from our hometown in Orange County too. So we became friends with Dave Dunn. And push it ahead a couple of years, Dave Dunn comes and joins Charlie D and Milo. Okay. We end up being lifelong friends with Dave Dunn. He records with us at CBS and stuff. But that's a digression. Right now, he's just an Oregon freak, just like the rest of us. And he plays violin, and it just blew us away. And later on, one evening, a friend of ours that we literally moved up with had built a beautiful teepee, an Indian constructed teepee, and instead of skins and things like that on the outside of it, it was several parachutes. So it was a white, beautiful, proper teepee. And he set it up right by a high area. One side of the area was the road, just a few yards away, and the other side, a few yards away, was the running Illinois River that you could hear. You could hear the river running. It couldn't get any more beautiful or cliche hippies in the woods. And he had a campfire flickering out front.
Scotty dog.
And what?
A black Scotty dog.
And a black Scotty dog. And it was such an ideal thing. And we were visiting him one beautiful dark night. And David Dunn brought his violin. And we thought, well, how cool. Dave, play us something on the violin. And so we're sitting around the campfire in front of the teepee, Scotty dog, wishing we had marijuana. And David was playing Brahms' Hungarian dance numbers, whatever. It's the wild gypsy violin song. And we were just absolutely blown away, just thinking, this is heaven. This is heaven on earth. We really did the right thing by dropping out. And all of a sudden, okay, while the violin is going on, we hear this, and correct me if I'm not doing it right, dear. We hear this far away at first. It goes.
Well, I didn't hear it far away. I just heard it there. I heard it. Sounded like it was right on top of us. And it happened suddenly. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear any coming from a distance or anything like that. It just seemed like it was almost like there was a helicopter across the street, but it wasn't that sound. It was just that it was that close.
Yeah, it was the deepest rumble without going into that boombox painful
No,
thing. It wasn't like
It
that.
wasn't painful.
It was unearthly.
No, but it sounded like some kind of a, well, it sounded like
We thought it was a rocket.
a truck in the sky or something. I don't know. What's that sound doing coming from there? It sounded like something that would have been on the ground, but it wasn't on the ground.
Yeah, and it wasn't on the ground.
Because we looked up where the sound was coming from, and it was above the tree level, so it wasn't that low. But it was, I would say, helicopter hovering level. It was like a tall building hovering. And then it was just still hovering, and it was shaped like a big cigar with sort of a matte black finish and a cigar butt on the end that looked like burning coals, not flames shooting out. And that's all. And I just hovered there for a long time, making that hovering noise. Well, we must have stood there very quietly with our mouths open and we weren't scared or anything that I know of. Cause it was just like, oh.
We're seeing a close one.
Yeah, okay. The reason I don't know, have any idea why we weren't afraid or anything, but because it didn't seem like it was just hovering. It was, and it was very large, so it would have been stupid to be afraid because there would have been nothing we could have done.
Well, what could we do?
If it hovered over us and fell, it would have smooshed us. So.
And that's another phenomenon of a sighting. When you're looking at it, it feels like your consciousness has changed. I'm not afraid of this. It's like it gives you a shot of, instead of fear, it gives you a shot of wonder.
It's not like those 1950s movies or the Godzilla movie where you see something like that and you start running.
Run!
Yeah.
No, wow. Okay. Anyway, it was like the classic cigar shape type thing, only it had that red tail end, and it wasn't flame shooting out. It wasn't like a jet.
Don't repeat. You were talking
Yeah, huh?
Yes, we already said that.
Okay. And finally, all of this going on while you hear the river going, making its noise, and it passes out of sight. And we all just sort of go, wow, that was something else. And then we sat back down and David got his violin and finished the Brahms.
And I don't think anybody talked about it.
We did, yeah, whoa, that was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What can you say? It was there, it's not there now. We're still here.
Yeah.
Well, then, that's more music.
Yeah. And, if we were centered on, if that was the only supernaturally kind of thing in our lives, that was enough to obsess us for the rest of our lives on that subject. And for us, it was a footnote, almost.
Well, it's something we remember, but
yeah,
that's it.
Because I'm not fascinated that was weird. I was just informed.
Okay.
I was just educated that it was.
Are you talking?
Huh?
Tell me when you're getting close to the end.
I'm almost close to the end. I'm going to tell my the one that just sort of disappeared on me.
Okay, well, I didn't mean to bother you. I've just been sitting here and it's cold and I have work to do.
Maybe I'll pick up the next.
No, you're not going to have 2 days on this. I'm going to go.
I was moving. We ended up living in a little one-room cabin with a wood stove and no electricity. We had kerosene lamps, And that little one-room cabin was right behind the barn where Gary and Diane and Andre lived. And I talk about that story here in My Life with the Spirits too. I was walking over to the barn to say something to Gary or Diane, and it's daytime, probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just look up and I was looking at the barn. The barn had a bear, had a full-blown bear skin nailed to the outside of the barn. I was looking at the bear skin, and I look over the barn, and there is a classic, almost like something a sixth grader would draw a version of a flying saucer. It looked like a flying saucer with a little kind of a lump cabin on the top and a little almost spherical lump on top of that. It was silver. It was not stationary, but it was moving about as fast as I was walking. And it was, I could see it clearly. It had little dots that you'd think might be portholes, but they couldn't have been too, because they had sort of they were illuminated, or they reflected light differently. And you got that same feeling, like when I looked up and saw it, it was almost like I could tell somebody or something was saying, he sees us. Because there's this instant, okay, we're connected somehow. And that same jolt of wonder hit. And I'm starting to think that jolt of wonder has something to do with why some people see them and some people don't, or why they're very difficult to capture on film and things like that. But that's another story and all theory. Anyway, I was so excited because I was calling out, I think, to Gary or Diane. Nobody saw it with me, because as I was even calling out, it moved a little faster ahead of me. And it was only just maybe as high as a 4-story building, about that high off the ground. And it just kept moving within my field of view. And it got to sort of a clear part of the sky. And then, this is the only way I can describe how fast it moved in another direction instantly. I was looking at it. It was in my field of view, right about like that. And I didn't sense it moving. I sensed it shrinking in shape, just like that. But it wasn't shrinking. It was moving away so fast down my direct field of vision that I didn't even get the feeling that it was whooshing away from me. It just stayed clear in my vision and just went out like that. And that's the end of my story. Do you have anything else to add, dear? She's coming. Do you have anything else to add?
Well,
Besides, we prayed to flying saucer people.
No, we're not going there. I didn't pray to any flying saucer. I thought maybe I'd make this story worth something. No.
Yes. Why is it important that you know this?
Well, because it was just curious that we were talking about last night, and other people talked about it. And of course, we all know the Defense Department is finally coming out saying, well, yeah,
Shit, yes.
all the time. It's all, it's just constant. But it's funny that we have that in the Defense Department because it makes us scared. It makes people scared. And then also there are people who get into this their whole life and make it their, they want to know who these aliens are, what do they want with us?
Food.
or can they help us do something? Or
are there different kinds of them?
They get hung up on it too. Let's face it.
Yeah.
They forget to cut to the chase of their life and get distracted, which is what I consider. And there are lots of magicians forget to cut to the chase of their life and get distracted by scrying or tarot or astrology. Not that those things aren't all helpful and wonderful, but they forget to cut to the chase. And what I'm trying to think of is, why do we want to know who these aliens are and what they want with us, when maybe we should cut to the chase in our life and forget about defending ourselves against aliens and entities and misfortunes in our life, and be vigilant against our own guilt and fear and littleness, and try to figure out who we are and what we want with this world.
Yeah.
That's my message on flying saucers.
There's our flying saucer message from St. Constance this morning. And her battle against littleness. I remember.
Done. That's enough for the day.
I remember when I first took LSD.
No, you're not going to go there.
And I met other people in school and college that had taken LSD. And one person says, "Well, I took it the other night and I was reading some Alan Watts or something like that. And then I got to that point, that big person, little person point." Describing a level of consciousness you pass through,
Right.
Okay, I was getting high, and then I got to that big person, little person part.
The self with the small s and the self with the big s. Boy, same thing.
And so, of course, you instantly know, what that was about. Anyway, that's it for our post anniversary.
We're full of curried things.
Yeah.
Lon's talking about flying saucers.
Yes, we've had so much curry in us.
If they're going to eat us, they're going to curry us.
That I actually am craving a bowl of oatmeal this morning. So.
I'm actually craving more curry, but that's just because I believe it was good.
Okay, thank everybody for your anniversary wishes and everything else.
Thank you all for our anniversary wishes. We have made the best of a bad situation.
That's the story of our marriage. Well, we made the best of a bad situation.
Are you good?
Oh, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will.